Hello everyone, my name is Eric, and today we will be exploring the relationship among hyperparameters in machine learning models and their ability to detect COVID-19 in X-ray images. In summary, I found that learning rate, one of the hyperparameters, which are just parameters set prior to training the model, did indeed have a significant influence on the model's ability to detect COVID-19, and I did not find significant influence of other parameters. So, to get started, what is machine learning? Well, it's a subfield within AI, artificial intelligence, and it's the technology behind things that we use every day, such as like Touch ID or Face ID on your iPhones. It uses machine learning to differentiate your face from other people's. And the way that this works is that there's a thing behind the scenes called a neural network. Without diving into too much detail, it's basically just software that can learn new things without being explicitly programmed to do so. If you want to learn more, read my paper. I have a decent amount covering the basics of this. So different research has probed at the ability to use machine learning to detect COVID. However, there's relatively little research on how the different training parameters, the hyperparameters, influence its effectiveness, as well as there's relatively little research looking at sort of alternative means of training machine learning models, and I'll talk about that a bit in a second. And in order to do this, I used a neat online tool called Teachable Machine. It's essentially a code-free machine learning tool for training your own models all within your web browser. It's free, super easy. Just load up your images, set the parameters, click train, and then you get this really nice graphical user interface output. So in this case, this is actually our response variable, the 95%. The response variable is essentially the percent confidence of the correct image being fed to it. And as you can see here, we did it for COVID, two different types of pneumonia, as well as just normal X-rays. So in this case, the response variable would be 0.95. So my three hypotheses were one, that the deviation from the default batch size, which is one of the parameters, does not affect model accuracy. Batch size is essentially the number of images in each iteration of training. My second hypothesis was that deviation from the default number of epochs does not affect model accuracy. Epochs is the number of times that the model sees each data point during training, or also just the number of times that you cycle through all the data. And three is that deviation from default learning rate does not affect model accuracy. So learning rate is just like how it is in our curriculum. It's how fast the model learns these new concepts. For the design of experiment, for the other parameters, the different levels for them, batch size, I had 16, 64, 256, epochs at 25, 50, 100, 500, and learning rate 0.0001, 0.001, and 0.01. I had a fairly large sample size. I believe it was 27 samples were used for each image type. This equates to, I think it's like 400 something total samples per each experiment. And the first thing I actually had to do was I had to train models for each of the different training parameters. You just feed it a class of images, in this case, like the different image types, and they're all labeled. Click train, and then it's good to go, and you have your model. And then to analyze the data, I used general linear models as well as one-way ANOVAs. So preliminary findings show that learning rate does indeed have a significant influence on the ability to detect just COVID-19. However, none of the hyperparameters were significant across all of the images. And here you can see my different assumption checks. So in summary, batch size and epochs did not have a significant effect on the model performance for detecting just COVID. None of the hyperparameters had a significant effect across all the image types. Learning rate did have a significant effect for detecting just COVID, and I found that Teachable Machine could indeed be used to accurately detect COVID from chest x-rays.